Howdy guys, welcome back to BIG Photography. This is Ben, and today I'm going to show you how you can remove reflections from glasses in your shot. So if you want to see how I go from here to here, stay tuned. Alright guys, welcome back. So right off the bat, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that there is not one easy button or brush or tool or filter that's going to fix this problem. We just have to do it manually. And it's not that difficult. Using some of the techniques that I've talked about in my other videos, we can easily remove these reflections. So let's just go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to do is I want to kind of clean up the area inside the glasses because we're going to be doing a lot of clone stamping. The smoother and cleaner I can make the inside look, it's just going to be a lot easier when we are doing our clone stamping. So with a clone stamp brush, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of clean up some of these little dirtier areas. So for example, this little black spot, this is actually the silhouette of, I think, me when I'm taking the shot. So with just a clone stamp tool, I'm going to do a 20% flow. I'm just going to kind of clone stamp myself out here like so. And yeah, we'll just go ahead and take out this lighter area here. It's just going to make the end thing, it's going to make it easier in the end. Just trust me. Okay, looks like, let's see if I can clone stamp this darker spot onto this lighter spot. Something like that. Okay, and then there's a little spot here, like so. These little smudges in the glasses, those are fine. We can get rid of this little seam. This is the seam from the V-flat, which I'm using as the kind of fill light or bounce light. And this is the key light over here, which is why it's so bright. And we can just get rid of this little dark line like so. We can also clean up some of the eye. Maybe just taking a brush and painting with this color really light, 2%. We can just kind of, you know, make the eye look a little nicer here like so. We can even come in here and just kind of clone stamp that edge out. Now we're going to do a different technique to actually get rid of this reflection, but just around the edge here I want to kind of clone stamp that out. See how that works. Okay, let me go back to that light colored paintbrush. That seemed to be doing a bit better job. All right, so something like so. And yeah, I think that looks fine. Alrighty. Okay, so the first thing I want to fix is I want to fix, well, actually, no, before I do that, let's actually clone stamp the rest of this. Let's go ahead and clone stamp this seam, this continued seam on the V-flat, which is kind of still bothering me. So let's go ahead and let's do a 10% flow to kind of blend it in a bit nicer. It kind of looks like the glasses are a bit frosted, so that's why they're kind of like, it seems like almost purpley or yellowy on this side. But we'll see if we can't deal with that later. We'll keep it. And maybe this little line here. Okay, so it looks, that is looking a little better. And I don't have to be too precise here. We're going to be erasing that all anyways. Okay, so yeah, all we did is just kind of, you know, clean up some of that. It's going to make the next step a little easier. So the next step is we are just going to first just darken up this whole area, because this area where the V-flat is being reflected is just kind of washed out and too bright. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a curves adjustment layer and just kind of darken it up kind of arbitrarily, and then bring it back with a 100% brush. With white, we are going to paint in that adjustment like so. Now it's going to be a bit too harsh, but that is okay, just so we can see where our adjustment is, and then we can adjust it later. Now if I go outside the edge, that's fine. I can always remask it back in, but that's okay. So yes, something about like that is okay. Now we can go back to our curves adjustment layer, and we can bring it up so we're trying to make it look like the part of the eye that is not under a reflection. So it was just the right amount of contrast And bright and dark, I think maybe bring the brightness, the highlights down a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Let's see, zoom out. So yeah, something kind of like that. You can see just that by itself has a pretty profound effect. And yeah, I like that. I think that looks good. We're going to keep that and we're going to work with that. Now, of course, this top part is a bit too bright, which means we're just going to have to clone stamp it to fix it. So that's what we're going to do next. So with a brand new layer and our clone stamp brush tool set to current layer and below, I'm going to grab 100% brush and we are just going to maybe start from this edge and just go across and clone stamp. And we're going to keep going until we basically hit the edge. We just hit right there, like so. All right, and that looks pretty good. And let's just do one more round. So starting from here. Now we're going to get some repeating patterns, but that is quite all right because we're going to fix it later. Okay, and maybe something like so. Okie dokie. Alrighty, that looks not great, but it looks okay. Let's go ahead and grab a low flow brush and take this kind of brown area and let's just see if we can't, like, you know, kind of blend it in a bit nicer. Just kind of mixing it up so the pattern looks a bit random and a bit more natural. And then if we want, we can spend some time to try to get rid of these little repeating patterns we got here. But I think for now, that looks fine. That looks good to me. Okay, and then here, I guess we're gonna try to, what do we want to do? Maybe we want to try to actually take this part. I feel like because the glasses seem to be a bit frosted and almost like have a purple tint to them. You know, we're getting some of this like purple color in the edges. So this is where you have to kind of be creative and you have to kind of just like make decisions. Like it's not gonna look perfect because it's not perfect. So we're just gonna have to make creative decisions that we think look good. And I think in this case, I'm gonna switch to a lower flow, like a 5%, and see if I can't like just blend in this darker part to the side. We're gonna lose a little bit of that skin texture, but that's okay. And then maybe here, just using the clone stamp to kind of do that. And if we really want, we can get rid of that purple by using a color blend mode layer later, but I think that looks fine. Alrighty, now we have the eye. Now obviously you can see here it's pretty much just all washed out and we've lost the detail. So what we have to do, we just have to physically draw it back in. If I look at it without, you can see kind of where the eyelid was, and all we're going to do then is just paint it back in. So what I can do actually is I will paint it in on top. Let's just grab a dark kind of brown or black, and let's just do something like a 10% flow brush. And let's just kind of, I want to just basically outline where the kind of eyelash and the eyelashes and the eyelid are. Looks like there's a few things here. So something like that. All right, so now when I turn these back on, I now have my rough outline of where his eyelid was, and we're just gonna have to actually manually paint it in. Like there's not really enough information in the surrounding area to do any kind of clone stamping, and this is where we got to take kind of our artistic ability and our artistic mind and just paint it back in. Now, yeah, we can take some of this eyelid texture here and kind of clone stamp it in over here, and I think that's going to work pretty good. Once we get to a certain point, we're just basically cloning the clone, which is fine. Again, we are so far away, and this is such a small area that you can be really sloppy and no one's going to notice anything. And you'll see once we zoom in, you're going to see how fantastic this looks, even though it looks quite sloppy here. So maybe just grabbing a paintbrush, let's just go ahead and take a dark brown color and just kind of start painting in some of this texture. maybe mixing up some clone stamping so we can kind of get some of that texture in there. And you know, we could even probably sample from somewhere else, like just sample like from down here, which is a bit too bright, but I mean, just to kind of mix up the texture, you can sample from different areas. It doesn't have to be exactly right next to it. If you think that that texture is going to kind of look good, yeah, sample from that side. That's going to be fine. If I really wanted to, I can rotate the brush a bit, but I'm not going to bother doing that. It just takes too long. But let's just grab our paintbrush again. Painting with brown. Maybe come back to our dark and kind of just like, maybe just mess around. Add some little texture yourself. Maybe grab one of these lighter colors and just kind of do, I'm just basically freestyling it here. I'm really just freestyling. I'm just kind of throwing colors out there, and I'm just painting, just almost as if I was painting an actual painting, just like almost I'm drawing. I'm just literally drawing. Now, maybe for some people who don't maybe have that kind of artistic ability, it might be a bit difficult, but just like anything, you know, you practice, you get better at it. Okay. All right. And so here we have the eyeball, which again is very washed out. So I'm just going to come over here and just going to darken it up. I'm just going to manually paint in what I think I see here. Looks like there's a dark part here. Maybe this part's a little bit lighter. And then let's switch to like a 5% brush. And then just by adding a little bit of this variation, you're going to see that it kind of, you know, kind of makes it look real, right? It's going to look pretty real, I think, something like that. And then we can really sharpen up the edge here, like so. So I think that looks pretty nice. Okay, something like that. And it looks like, yeah, the eye, I'm gonna go ahead and clone stamp that little line there, fix that. I think that's gonna look a bit better. Something like so. Yeah. Now we're cooking. Alrighty. And then maybe just kind of thicken up the eyelid here like that. If we wanted to, looks like we have some darker spots here, which I guess are supposed to be the eyebrow. Maybe just come over here and just like, you know, add a little bit of like dark patches here, kind of make it look like the eyebrow is being kind of continued on like so. And then, yeah, just something like that. Messed up a bit there. Maybe go down to a 2%. And again, maybe just draw in a little bit of, you know, random texture, like just adding a little bit of like random texture there. I'm just painting, like I'm just doing like that. And if we zoom out, look at that. Look at that. I think you wouldn't even be able to tell. Even I think at this distance, you know, you wouldn't really know. We're not done yet. There's still some things we can do to fix color and saturation, but I mean, already this is 90% of the way there. So as you can see, it just takes a little bit of time, but it's really not that difficult. All right. So maybe here, I want to just correct this eyeball a little bit more. Maybe just bring it down a bit to kind of make it look a bit wider here. Let's get a higher flow brush and just do something like that. Okay. Now we have this reflection here in the corner. This one's going to be pretty easy. We're going to make a brand new layer just so we have them all separate. Makes it easy to work with. And let's just go ahead and 100% clone stamp this bad boy here. And again, don't worry about repeating patterns. What I'm going to do actually is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the screw completely because we will fix it in a second. Okay. That looks fine by me. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my background layer, grab my lasso tool, and I'm going to just take the little hinge screw from this side. I'm going to duplicate this layer, then deselect it, grab that layer, put it at the top of the stack, and then grab it. And I'm going to flip the horizontal up here and just put it where I think it looks good. Something like that. Let me turn magnetized off because it's kind of trying to stick to some things there. But there we go. Maybe make it a little bit bigger. And yeah, that looks pretty legit. Now we can make a mask and we can paint with a 100% black brush just to clean up the edge. Maybe bring up some of this a bit and clean up the edge here. Like so, and like that. And look at that. And if we want, we can do a lower flow brush to kind of blend in that part here. And if we want, we can even bring in a little bit of that harsh highlight, just like so, just because it might sell the effect a bit more. But look at that. Yeah, look at that. That looks pretty legit. I mean, that looks pretty good. Granted, the screws like not exactly in the right place, but I mean, nobody is going to know. No one's going to have any idea. Maybe that looks a bit better. Look at that. I think that looks great. Like that looks really amazing. All right, so let's do the next one. The next one, again, it's all clone stamping just because we don't have any information to work with. We don't have any data that we can work with. We just have to clone stamp. Before I do that though, I think I'm gonna try to paint in this area first. So just like we did before, we have to get creative, get artistic, and grabbing a paintbrush, maybe like 10%, and just, all right, where's his eyelid? There's the eye. Maybe I think it comes something like this, possibly. Then maybe we can try to do some clone stamping of this texture, but we have such little to work with. There's really not much we can do. Easier for me just to grab, a dark color and then just kind of paint it in manually. Do something like that. And maybe just grab something dark and just kind of, add in some like fake texture. Maybe it's a bit too dark. Add in some of this light, a little bit of back and forth. You should be playing around and just painting. Okay, and now we have that. Now we can come up here and just do some big clone stamping. Like so. And then what I like to do when I have these areas where they're supposed to be kind of like a gradation or they blend, start on one side. Let's actually get rid of these spots because they keep getting picked up. I like to start on one side at 100%. And then what we'll do is once we get in the middle, we will switch to a low flow so that we can attempt to blend them. All right, so something like that. Now let's go ahead and switch to like a 5% flow brush and then just try, maybe grab here and then just try to blend it in so it blends in a little bit nicer. And then here we got obviously some repeating patterns that we want to get rid of. And let's just do, oops, that grabbed the eye. Let's just do some more, kind of blend it in a bit nicer. Like that. Okay, that looks okay. Again, like the glasses seem to be a bit frosted at the ends, so that's why they're kind of being light and almost kind of purpley looking. But yeah, then I'll just grab a paintbrush and just kind of like throw a few strokes down just to be, and maybe do a bit of a darker flow just to kind of like add in some texture and mix it up a bit, add in some kind of fake, skin texture in a sense. Like so. Yeah, like that. All right, let's go ahead and see what that looks like. All right, that actually looks pretty good. Maybe I think what I want to do is, so it's really hard to say. So like I said, you have to be a bit creative because if we turn this off, you can already see that it looks pretty good. But I can see that, yeah, the glasses, even with the reflection in there, the glasses are kind of frosted on the ends here. So I kind of want to keep that frosting a little bit. And so I think what I might actually do is this last layer that we were blending is maybe I'm going to clone stamp this side. Let's just do a lower flow, like a 2% flow. And then just kind of blend it in, hopefully blend it in a bit more so it does look more like a natural blend, something like that. And then I think, yeah, we need to maybe paint a bit more of his eyelash a bit thicker. So this is, again, this color is a bit washed out, so it should be actually a bit of a darker color. And maybe with a 5%, we can kind of do something thick like that. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. And if we want to, we can darken up the eyeball since it is a little bit washed out because of that reflection. So by darkening the eyeball a little bit, we've kind of added some texture there, or bring some contrast. And then we have the rim of the glasses, and that's we can keep that little highlight. It looks kind of cool, but if we really wanted to, we can do something similar we did with these screws, is maybe just go back to our background layer and maybe like lasso. Actually, before I do that, let's actually we can fix it. We'll just fix this on the background layer. Let's just clone stamp that highlight out so I don't pick it up. Let's just clone stamp it out like so. There we go. And then we can use a lasso tool and we can just, same thing. Duplicate this layer, deselect it. Let's move it to the top of the stack. And then now that we've grabbed it, we can kind of position it where we think it should go. Maybe make it a bit smaller, maybe something like that. And then throw a mask on it. Grab a paintbrush, 100%, paint with black, and mask it out. Oops. Something like so. And then if we want, we can come in here and clone stamp. Just do a new thing, clone stamp. And then, yeah, you could do something like that. You can get really precise with it if you want. I'm not going to spend too much time with it because I think you guys get the idea. You can go all the way across, maybe from here. You start clone stamping from this side, kind of like what we did before. And you just kind of meet in the middle and you can make it look as nice as you want. I'm going to do this really quick, sloppy, just so you get an idea. So something like that. All right. But even at that kind of speed and sloppiness, at this distance, it looks fine. It looks totally fine. So now all we have to do now is just a little quick touch ups. So I think I'm going to grab my dodge and burn and painting with a white paintbrush at 2%. I'm going to look, is there any parts I think I need to be darker, lighter? So maybe like right here, I feel like this part needs to be a little bit lighter. Like so. Maybe I will lighten up this part on the eye. And then maybe I can even lighten up this. And then burn things that need to be darker. Yeah, I could come over here and darken up the top part to kind of sell the effect of the glasses being darker at the top. Maybe here I feel like his eyeball is a bit too white because I think that we didn't, let's see. Yeah, we didn't really change the eyeball intensity because it's kind of white because it's reflecting there. So let's go ahead and just like burn the eyeball down a bit just so that yeah, it feels a bit darker. Let's see if we can't go a little bit darker here. Let's just bring this down a bit. Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah, that sells it. That really sells the effect of the eyes being behind the sunglasses. And then, yeah, sure. Maybe we can just kind of darken up this part here. I feel like I just prefer it to be a bit darker, even though I know the glasses are kind of white, it seems like, but I want to make them a bit darker. That's just me. Again, got to be a bit creative. So something like that. Yeah, I feel that looks more realistic to me. All right, so if there's one more part I think I may have missed, I can see here in the glasses, there's a little bit of the edge of that V flat still there. You can see this thin line, but if I do back out, especially here, it disappears. You're not going to see it, but I do see a little bit of that white left over. So I'm just going to dodge that down. I'm sorry, burn that down to get it a little bit darker. And let's go ahead and switch to a lower flow and do something like that. I think that looks pretty good. I still feel like this is a little bit too desaturated. I can dodge it down, burn. I can burn it down a little more to get it darker. And then maybe I can come over here and just do a hue saturation. And let's just go ahead and bump up the saturation level across the board. I'm going to invert that. And then we are going to paint with a low flow white brush. And I'm just going to start trying to paint in some of that saturation there, especially around here. Maybe just try to get this a bit darker and a bit saturated. It looks like it's even still a bit too light for my liking. Maybe come over here with the curves and maybe just actually bring it down. Actually try to add it a bit more contrast. I'm going to go a bit extreme just so I can start painting it in like that. Invert that, and then with my white low flow brush, try to come over here and paint in a little more contrast that I think might look okay. Let's see, did that do anything? A little bit. And that saturation did a little bit. Maybe I can go a bit more with that. And then I think we're done. But I mean, you see, you get the idea. Like, I can tweak and I can play around with this to make it perfect, but you can see what I did and how I did it. And to be honest, I think what we've got right now looks pretty good. If this was our before and this was our after, I think that looks fantastic. Even if we zoom in a bit like here, I think you would be hard pressed to tell that we deleted something out of the glasses. It looks pretty natural. We did have to get a little creative, and you can see I did darken the glasses in certain areas, but I still think it looks great and we did a great job. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's kind of a unique situation that you may not come across that often, and ideally you want to avoid reflections while you're shooting, but sometimes, you know, they're unavoidable, and if you have the ability to get rid of them in post, that's fantastic. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.